some coffee, a Mountain Dew, maybe both. A storm is brewing. The Brainstorm. Welcome to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.
Hey, welcome to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Mike is out of the office today. He's got some other meetings, and so we wanted to invite a special guest on the show with us. I'm excited. He's a good friend of mine. We really got to know each other a lot better over the course of really this year and late last year. And this is going to be a great show because, you know, as a business owner or a business executive, have you ever really thought, wow, it would be great to get someone else's opinion on what I need to do next, or how do I achieve my goals? And so business executives all over the place, they go through this thought process of, man, it would just be nice to have someone else to talk to, someone outside of my organization or someone else out of my family. And that's what Kevin has done for me. Welcome to the show, Kevin Williams. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
It's going to be a good show. We've never really just sat down and talked like we're getting ready to talk on this show today. So we've talked about all kinds of things.
Yes, we have.
But this is going to be a different kind of conversation.
Yeah, this will be good.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's we call it peer-to-peer advisory, basically, and it's when you are able to get in front of someone else that's kind of not biased, I guess, Kevin, right? It's outside of your business.
It's an unbiased group of peers.
Yeah.
So you get unbiased feedback, which as business owners, we're not used to that, right? You run a company, people are going to kind of do what you say. That's how you run the company.
Right.
So in a peer group, you sometimes get feedback and information you're not used to, but it can be really valuable.
It can be valuable, and not only just in the issues, but like learning from others' experiences. Like a lot of people have already gone through. Like sometimes you think you're on an island by yourself.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh man, other people have already crossed this island.
Yeah. We talk about the phrase we use is isolation relief.
Right.
Because you feel like you're alone. You feel like nobody quite gets everything that I'm having to deal with. But when you get in a room with other business owners, you realize, wow, we're dealing with a lot of the same things.
Yeah. I can only envision it right now. Like you sit down with someone who you already know, who already has this bias, or someone already has a preconceived decision, or I guess almost a suggestion of a solution, if you will. Of, oh, well, you just need to do this. And then as a business executive, you're like, well, you don't understand the whole dynamic of what I'm talking about. And in this peer-to-peer advisory groups, man, you don't have that.
Right. It's hard to relate to someone when you haven't walked in their shoes, right? But if you get other business owners together, they know what it feels like to own a business, to start a business, to, you know, whatever their experiences have been. And that really, that just brings a level of competence into the room where you can, once you've created a safe space, you put people like that in a room, they feel safe to be open, to be a little vulnerable, and to really connect with each other, and the value that they bring by bringing those other perspectives is it's transformational, really. I mean, it has such a lasting impact, because if you can help the business leader grow, make better decisions, get better outcomes, you help the whole organization, which is the fun part to me, is watching that sort of ripple effect through the organization.
And everybody learns in the room. So our listeners and our viewers are probably sitting there going, okay, I'm getting the gist of what it is, but who is this Kevin Williams guy? Like what makes him an expert in this subject? So if you would give our listeners and viewers a little bit of background on Kevin Williams.
Sure. I don't know if I'm expert, but I'm certainly learning and growing along with everybody else. So from a background perspective, I have school-wise, I have a degree in electrical engineering and an MBA. Bounced around in the product development world, building teams and doing things in the U.S., and had a couple chances to live in Europe and do some things over there. Moved here to this area about 11 years ago now, and most of that time was spent at a local telecommunications company called Avtech.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Avtech, because I know a little bit, and they were, I guess you helped them get there, but they've sold now, but they were a very large organization before that.
Yeah, we so when I joined Avtech, we were about a 30, 40 person company. 7 years later, sold to Motorola, and it was about 150 people, just under that.
Yeah.
So it was 20+% growth each year. We had a lot of opportunities, a lot of good market forces in our favor that helped us do that. A great product, a great technology, and some really good people. But a lot of growth consistently year over year. It really, it was challenging, but it was a lot of fun.
So you came on as the president of that organization.
I came in as the director of the engineering group,
Okay.
and then grew into owning marketing, and then eventually sales and service. And then when I exited the company, I was the president, and then the sale to Motorola happened about a year after that officially.
Okay. So through all of those life experiences, you certainly have experienced a lot of different things. You just said sales and marketing, product development, which was software as a service in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah, we transformed the company. It was historically a more hardware company. We transformed it into a software, and then really the services piece was the biggest growing segment of that company, and that was part of the attractiveness to the sale, was that software as a service.
So when you got a lot of movement, product-wise, people-wise, sales-wise, marketing-wise, development-wise, right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of issues and probably a lot of people that you're seeking information from and advising and directing. So you went through that 7 years stint there at Avtech, and when you left there, what did you decide to do at that point?
So left there on really good terms, really good relationship with the owner that was in the process of selling, and had some runway, and just kind of stood back and said, what do I want to do? And I've got 5 kids, and they were starting college and in their young adult stages, and I thought, I'd like to do something in business that they can relate to a little bit. So we completely switched gears, and we opened an escape room downtown Columbia, Escapeology.
Wow, that is a major shift in direction.
It was. I had no sort of foundation. Coming from a technology background, of course, we could set up a network and do certain things, but commercial construction, a lot of areas where I didn't have peers or other people that I knew really to build. So I had to build a lot of that from scratch. So it was a lot of learning.
Yeah, so over at Avtech, you have 150 people that's surrounding you, and
Yep.
I'm sure there's a lot of really, really good people in that industry, and so you had a lot of mid-level management and then workforce, and you had a lot of moving parts. You leave there, and it's just you.
It's just me and a couple of my kids
Yeah.
and my wife, and
Yeah.
and that was how we started it. Now it's about 15 people, but these are kids that are still in college. They're part-time. So I went from a white-collar workforce that's a B2B business, right, with high technology and a little more skilled labor, and to more of an entertainment. Although the team building side was always, for me, the core of what it was, and that was always the most interesting. But also it's just a lot of entertainment, nights and weekends, right to the customer. So that was a lot of direct customer feedback. So it was a completely different world, but it's been a lot of fun.
Were you doing a lot of team building over at Avtech as well?
Well, yeah, you had to, right? I mean, when I walked in and from the day I walked in till the day I left, there were, a lot of the key people were still there, but there was a lot of growth. We really had to build out a marketing organization from scratch. We transformed the services group, and a lot of the challenges they had and capabilities that they had to grow. So a lot of the organization morphed over those years quite a bit. And some people would rise to opportunities there. Other people were very comfortable where they were, and what they did was valuable. So they stayed being key contributors in those ways. But balancing those opportunities for growth with what the business needs and what people are, how fast people can grow, it can be real challenging.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, you're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. We have Kevin Williams, the CEO of Escapeology, and the Vistage chair. And our show today is talking all about peer-to-peer advisory and getting kind of some unfiltered kind of advice from people who have gone through some of the same experiences that you're currently going through. And we're kind of going back into some of Kevin's history right now. When he worked for Avtech as the president, he worked his way through that organization. We're talking about team building and just people around you. And then we're jumping into the Escapeology area as well. Before we just jump completely into Escapeology, because I'm very interested in that, putting your engineering mind to work, because while it seems like it's completely different and it seems like it's a completely out of context jump, having the engineering brain and mind that you have it really isn't that much of a difference from an engineering perspective.
If you look at the mechanics of the games, I mean, we had the opportunity. It is part of a franchise, but we're given a lot of freedom. So a couple of the games there, one we designed almost from scratch, and another one we had a pretty heavy voice in how it would get developed. So we did all that. We also had a lot of technology behind the scenes where we automated things. We put in PLC controllers and used software to watch what was happening and automate things in the room. So we did leverage the technology knowledge that we have in the business. Yeah, it was, yeah.
Going back to Avtech and how it relates to kind of peer-to-peer, if you will, advisory, talk to me about how many people were around you within the organization that was speaking into the direction of the group at that time.
So there was a single owner with basically voting control. So there were other minority owners, but he really led the charge. And then I was president, and then I had 4 direct reports in those different functions that we talked about. And then there was a board. We didn't have a board of directors. Well, we did, but that was more of the family. In terms of driving and steering the business, we had a board of advisors. Mm-hmm. So they would come in once a quarter. Right. We would give report outs to them. We would share the strategic plan and updates and progress we'd made or changes we felt like we needed to do. And so they really helped guide the organization internally. And then really through that whole time, and I know we'll get there later, I was part of in and out in different roles and part of a Vistage group as well, which gave me an external group as well to help me.
So you had a single owner.
Single owner.
And then you had you as the president. Would you guys do vision casting together, or was that more of the ownership and then that was conveyed to you as the president and then you were tasked with execution?
So we were given guardrails for vision, right? Okay. If we wanted to go suddenly make mousetraps or do something crazy, we were given guardrails of, we want to be a telecommunications, mission critical software. That's where we need to play. And then outside of that, actually, there was a fair amount of freedom. So I would say it was, the owner definitely drew that sandbox. And then there was a lot of collaboration about how do we leverage what we can do. So, for example, we were heavy in the transportation market. We did some research and realized that a lot of large power utilities, in the way they'd use our products, would do the exact same types of things. So we had an opportunity with the feature set we had to go after the utility market. And that, a lot of our growth in those last couple of years was actually capturing the major utility companies because the product was a fit, the sales process was similar, large organizations. And so we realized all these synergies we already had, and then we leveraged it in a new market. That really came from my group more than the owner. But the owner was very good about the software as a service transition. Like he saw the benefits there and really wanted to see, directionally see some of that. So I'd say it was really pretty collaborative.
So then you had the 4 direct reports, and then everybody within the organization obviously reported up to them in some way, I would assume, right? So would you sit with the 4 direct reports and or the owner as well to then you got vision at this point, then cast out strategy, like how we're going to execute it?
So the strategy came from my group. So the owner maintained 3 direct reports. I had the operation of the business and the strategy and all those pieces. There was a financial, sort of the CFO role reported up to the owner. It's a private company. There's lots of things happening there.
Absolutely.
And then the HR leader also reported up to the owner. He was always very careful to keep his hands in how the people were doing, and he wanted that avenue. But all your sales, your service, is about 110, I think, when I exited that reported up through me.
Okay, so then you guys executed in task strategy.
Yes.
So you got the ownership, you got the board of advisors, right? So then you would be in those meetings,
right?
And so you got this group of people that was advising. You got the folks underneath you. But then you also have this other Vistage group that you were in. So you've been in Vistage. So now you have the outside advisory, peer-to-peer advisory. Then you have the inside, either people you reported to or reported to you. How are those two things different? The outside versus the inside?
Yeah, the outside was much less filtered. If you're talking to your boss, you're always
guarded.
A little guarded. It's your job, right?
I don't care. Nobody can tell me, oh, well, we're just very transparent with each other. No, you're guarded both ways.
Yeah. And we were pretty transparent. It was actually a very collaborative group all around, but there's that element of that hierarchy there that you can't get away from. So the Vistage group was much more independent. It was much more unfiltered. raw. I think I had to grow into it a little bit. I think early on, especially when I was a newer leader, and even the first part of when I became president, the first part there, I think I got in my own way. And actually Vistage, I think, helped me see that my own limitations, maybe the insecurities or fears I might have had of, am I going to really be able to do this? Can we keep going? Those sort of things that creep into your head at times. Vistage helped me see how that was actually impacting my behavior and limiting my leadership, actually, and helped me get past some of that, which was really good.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see that, and I'm sure our viewers and our listeners are starting to catch on to our show here now, right? The premise of our show and the point we're starting to drive home is having that outside perspective that's transparent. You have to be there's some vulnerability in there too, which you mentioned earlier, and so now you're going out of you leave that position as president, you're going out of Avtech, and now you're putting the engineering brain to use and going into Escapeology.
Yep.
So now you have a completely different team. You go from 100 plus people to your family.
Yeah. It started out just as now it's about 15, and they're all part-time. And then what I did, once we had the basic escape room working, we did add some leadership workshops and team building and that sort of thing into that, just to create larger events and things that we could do for companies.
To more of the corporate world.
I found that I missed that, right?
Yeah.
After a while, you miss the strategy, you miss the peer collaboration, or the helping people grow. And I felt like that was one of the better things about Avtech, was the opportunity I had to help people grow and give them opportunities. And I really enjoyed building that team. And so I realized that team building for me was kind of a core place where I found a lot of value and enjoyment.
Right, I could definitely see that. And you probably enjoyed the space that you weren't doing that for the period of time, and then you probably started saying, man, I really miss having the ability to speak into people's lives and from a professional perspective.
Yeah, and that's where it was great to connect with my family. We a lot of my kids are still involved and a core part of what happens there. I've been able to step back a lot and watch them really grow and grow in their leadership and in their capability, which has been a lot of fun. And then I've stepped more back, I think, into what I was comfortable with for the 20 plus years before I did that.
Now, what was it like opening escape rooms, man? Tell me about that process. I bet you visited a lot of other escape rooms, or you probably had to do a lot of market research from how do you do this?
I did my son had a 4-day break between the summer and the fall semester of college. And so we went on basically a weekend binge, and we drove all the way down through Florida, and we played like 12 or 14 games in like 3 days. I mean,
Nice.
It was nonstop escape rooms. And so
and then you do what, after game assessment or something?
Yeah, we did like a little debrief. What did we like? What did we not like? And some of those were at other Escapeologies, just kind of going in blind just to see what is this experience like.
Escapeology is a franchise.
Right.
Okay.
So our question was, do we want to totally be ground up, or do we want to leverage some of what they've created?
Right.
And we ended up going in on the franchise piece just because we felt like we could get there faster for this area. If you do it yourself, you can make one game a year. Right. We've got 8 downtown. And so getting there on your own would have taken a lot longer. So we're like, let's leverage some of what they already have. And that's where we went.
Well, when franchises, there's positives and negatives to everything, right? To ground up or franchise. And franchise gives you some branding. It gives you some processes. It gives you systems. It gives you the logistics of the games in your particular case. It gives you all kinds of things there. So that would probably is a smart choice in that case.
Yeah, and it was fun. We were location number 25, and right now there's a little over 50 in the world.
Okay.
And so we got in early enough that we're like, for our one game Mayday, where you're trying to save President Reagan and turn on the autopilot for the plane. Basically, we got a written script. And that's all they had was the outline story, a written script, and an intro video. And then the rest of it we had to build out. So we built out that whole game. We created the technology for when you repair the plane.
But they gave you the clues and all that type of stuff?
Not on that one, actually.
Okay.
We got to do a lot of creativity on that one. So that was really, so it felt like I kind of had the best of both.
It's an awesome game.
It felt like we had the best of both worlds, right? Because we could leverage their great stories, and then we were also given the chance to create some of our own. And so that was fun.
Some creative freedom.
And it's fun to watch because that one now exists in New York, in Bethesda, like all over over the world. You know, there's other like escapeologies that have taken our game and put it in, which is kind of a fun little twist on the franchise. I mean, it's a franchise, but it's small enough that it's just a few players involved, and you get some flexibility. So we felt like that was the right mix for us.
You know what? One of the things I really like about Escapeology in downtown Columbia, and you have 8 games, is the fact that the decor from when you walk in the front door to when you leave. Everything is tight. Everything is on par with the full decor of everything.
Yeah, there was a focus on the whole experience, right? You want to meet the customer, and that goes back to the business sense, right? You want to, within the first few seconds, they're deciding if they feel safe. Most of the time, the women make the decisions about if they're going to play there and what game they're going to play. The majority of the time, that's how it just works out. And so you want a place where females would feel comfortable, right? If you walk in and it's an old warehouse and there's a dusty sofa in the corner and you're just kind of looking around, you're not really sure what is this, you don't want that. You want it to feel, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be, I feel comfortable here. And that was important.
You're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike, and today we have the CEO of Escapeology, which is downtown Columbia. You just heard him. He has 8 games down there. And then he's also the chair of Vistage. And man, this is a great conversation because we're really diving to and moving towards is peer-to-peer advisory from an outsider's perspective. So Kevin, again, thank you very much for joining us. We were just talking about the environment in which you created, and you also just dripped another piece of really good from a marketing perspective, my marketing mind and business building mind. You just dripped another perspective. You just talked about your target market. You just said specifically that majority of the people that make the decisions of what games they're going to play and where they go play and so on and so forth is females. And so that's that's right. That really resonates with me because we talk a lot about demographics and psychographics and just really who the target market is in order to craft the right message to convey to them.
That's important.
Yeah, it's very important. So you create this environment, and we just absolutely love coming down there and playing that game. So at this point, you got the games, you got the franchise, you and your son's going through Florida on a binge escape game, a tour, if you will, played 12 different games, you had some debriefs afterwards, figured it all out, you go into the franchise, you build this thing out. So as you're going through this process, who are you seeking advice from at this point?
So if you go back to Vistage, there's actually a couple different types of groups you can be a part of. So I was in a chief advisor or chief executive group. Well, actually, when I really started at Avtech, I was in what they call a key group for your key employees. And then as my role expanded, I went into the CE group. Escapeology is a smaller business, right? So they have what they call a small business group. And so I went into that. And that was extremely helpful. That was extremely helpful in helping me keep my head thinking like a business person. Because when you're around, the people you're around influence you, right? And so if I'm only around college kids, and my family, I'm thinking from their perspectives, but I'm not thinking like the business owner that I need to think like.
Right.
So that was a really important piece for me.
So you have these outside groups that you're already diving into, getting unbiased, unfiltered, raw type of.
And the thing I'll say is, there are different types of organizations and groups to be a part of. So we did a lot of things, right? We joined the chamber, we joined a BNI group to build references and referrals and all that. I mean, they all have their place. And the Vistage group for me was the strategy, the decision-making piece. How do I make the best decisions? How do I avoid costly mistakes? This is my money now, right? I mean, it was important before, and it's even more important now. And so how do I avoid screwing up? And who is going to be honest with me and say, Kevin, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard, or what are you thinking, or that's a big, why are you wasting time on that? And really challenge me, and that's what I went to that Vistage group for.
I love that. So all in all, how long have you been in Vistage?
I've been in and out of Vistage with the different groups since 2010.
Okay, so we're at 2020 now, right?
Yeah, it's been 10 years.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, we're capping off this decade in the most weird type of way, which kind of brings me to my next point. I know you were in Vistage with me, actually, because Kevin, for our viewers and our listeners, Kevin is now a chair of Vistage, and he's my chair. And so I'm in Vistage group as one of the best decisions that I've made. And I jumped in and have been with Kevin since, I guess, the start of the year. And one of the craziest things that could ever happen happened this year. well, I mean, people are probably listening, going, everything that's crazy that could happen has happened this year. But 2020 brought on what we now know as COVID, right? You can call it all kinds of things, but COVID-19 happened.
Yep.
And so in the escape room business, I bet that was disastrous.
So on the escape room front, that we dropped 82% in 1 week. The week that they closed schools back in March, we went from basically normal traffic. Actually, we had just opened our Scooby Doo room, and everybody was excited about that, and business was at an all-time high in February. And then the second to third week in March dropped 82%. 2 weeks later, we were shut down completely.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a hard drop. That was a cliff that we fell off of.
And so it stayed that long for how long?
We opened back up
Stayed
May
that way.
1st. So we were closed almost 6 weeks. And then we opened back up May 1st. I got approval from the Secretary of Commerce or whoever it was. They said, you can open. So we started, and we didn't fully open, but we opened up in a controlled way.
Mm-hmm.
And then by mid to late June, we were fully open.
Okay. And I'm sure, obviously, you're doing it in certain ways, right? As far as
Right.
like cleanliness and
Yeah, we've got
safety and
we've got a ton of safety precautions. We fumigate the rooms in between with a blower and wipe down everything, and we've done a lot to keep everything as safe as we can. And it's always been just private groups. So when you book, it's just the people you bring with you are in the room. So it's a lot of family or people that weren't social distancing or
That's one of the things I really like about your escape rooms, because I've done escape rooms all over the place with our team here on team retreats and other things that we do, and we've been doing them for a long time. And some of those other, if you don't have a full room, they'll just put other people, strangers, in the room. You guys don't do that.
No, and for me, it was because the experience at its core was always a team building. Whether it's team building with your family, whoever it is, you're going in to have an experience, and when you come out, you're going to be connected and have shared something with those people that was fun and significant. How do you do that with somebody you just met in the lobby? Like, you can't.
Right.
So it always was about the team building was at the forefront. And I'd had some experiences. I've got 5 kids, and one of their birthdays, we played an escape room, and it held 10 people. So I booked 7 spots, and we showed up, and my kids were anywhere from 23 to 13, and there were 3 other people in the room that we didn't know, and they were frat guys from the university, which, they're looking at us like, oh, great, a 13-year-old, and we're looking at them like, oh, great, it's his birthday, and you're in my room.
Right.
And so it wasn't the greatest experience.
Yeah. Another thing that I really like about your place, other than everything that I mentioned thus far, is the different rooms you have.
Yeah.
So talk to us quickly about what all rooms you have. You just mentioned Scooby Doo, which I haven't played that, but I've seen it because you walked me through. But I'm super excited about that room.
Yeah, that one's licensed from Warner Brothers, so it's got some licensed content. It's got all the voices and the characters that we all grew up with.
The
right?
real Scooby Doo.
The same
voices.
guy has voiced Scooby Doo since the '60s, so it's him in there, and he's still doing it. And I think they maybe are just starting to transition that, but he did the Scooby Doo voice, and the other actors do the voices, so that you've got them as characters in the room to help you out, and you've got to solve the mystery. You got to unmask the villain. Yeah. It's just like what you'd remember. So we've got a Scooby Doo room. We've got a couple rooms where you've got to basically fix things. You're on a submarine, and you're going to run out of oxygen, or you're on Air Force One, and the autopilot's turned off, and the plane's been tampered with, so you got to fix it. We've got a couple that are murder mysteries. One's on a train. Budapest Express, and then we've got one set in a Scottish mansion, so mansion murder. Nothing gory, but very mystery sort of suspense figure it all out. We've got Antidote, which is a Save the World from the Virus, which maybe hits a little close to home now. Yeah. And then we've got Who Stole Mona, which is kind of a reverse heist. The Mona Lisa's been taken. You think you know who's got it, so you're going to kind of sneak into his art gallery and make your way to the back and see if you can get it back and get the reward. So,
gotcha.
So it's just a whole bunch of different things, depending on what your mood is and what you feel like. So.
Yeah, I've done probably about half of those, and they're really good. Maybe 4 or 5 different rooms. They're excellent. Every single time I've gone there, I had just a great experience. You also have a little side room that groups can rent out or have for a little party afterwards.
Yeah, we've got a conference room, and we've actually taken our Antidote room, our under pressure submarine, and the Budapest Express train, and those are actually virtual experiences now too. So if you are distanced and you're not feeling safe to go in person, we built my software background, we built a web application, a front end, and it'll give you inventory, it'll let you look around the room, and then you've got a live actor in the room that is helping you solve it, but you're not there yourself. So we've been doing that for teams that aren't quite feeling ready to show up in person, to give them another outlet for team building.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So as you've gone through this whole process, we've gone through Avtech. You've had internal teams that reported to you. You've had internal teams you reported to. You've gotten scenarios where you've had advisory groups and that, but you also had this external advisory team through Vistage. Then you left there and opened up your really family small business.
Yeah.
You were out there on an island by yourself for a little bit there, but then you also had small business type of peer-to-peer advisory groups, and that significantly probably helped you make some really good decisions and avoid some really bad decisions.
Yeah, and even, I was in that group through COVID, right? So I'm going in and I'm having conversations like, hey, my business is shut down. Like I've never experienced this before, right? I've never been in a business, and it was extremely frustrating because you're not, and I'm not being political or right or wrong, but it as a business owner, to not have your business open is a very hard situation to find yourself in.
Right.
And so having
At
other
no
people,
fault of your own.
right, and so walking through that with people and things like, I didn't open for 6 weeks. I should maybe try to talk to my landlord and negotiate rent. But I have no idea how to do that. Like, how do you? But I've got in this group, I've got a property management company, or I've got a leasing agent. I've got people that they do that all day.
This is what they do.
And so processing that issue with them and saying, how do I approach this? And their coaching was great. It was, their first thing was, Kevin, take the emotion out. I hear you, and when I'm listening to you, all I hear is emotion, because this is a family business and it's a da-da-da-da-da, and I get it. But as a property owner, that's not helping me solve this issue we have. So get rid of that. And they were really good about coaching me through, and we talked through, we role played a little bit, and it helped me know how to approach that in a way that and it worked out great. I had a good landlord, and we had a good conversation, but a lot of that was the Vistage group helping set me up for success and getting me out of my own way.
That's very, very powerful. You're listening to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike, and today's guest is Kevin Williams, Vistage chair and owner of Escapeology in downtown Columbia. Kevin, you and I are in a Vistage group together. You called on me, I guess, the latter part of 2019.
Yep.
We started talking through this and what does a Vistage group look like? What does peer-to-peer advisory look like? And Mike, my business partner here, he and I we've been working together quite a long time. First of all, partnerships are extremely, extremely difficult.
Yeah.
I'm sure that people out there going, oh, I've had experience in that. I never want to do a partnership together again. And they're difficult, right? And so what you have to do is you have to have the other person's well-being in mind at all times. And so you're not always going to agree on decisions. You're not always going to agree on processes. You're not always going to agree on a lot of things. But one thing you have to agree on is the other person has to keep the other person's well-being in mind at all times. You have to make a decision for them. And so he and I have always been people that let's just get together and work out what the problem is. Let's get together and talk it through, cast our own vision. But then you came along and talked to us a little bit, or talked to me about Vistage, and I joined in Vistage. And I can tell you that it's been one of the best decisions that I've made because of a number of reasons, Kevin. And I've told you this before. One of the reasons is it gives me the ability to stay sharp. It gives me the ability to process issues with other business owners, and then hear other business owners also processing those same issues, of which then I learn from how they're processing it and how their mindset works. Then it also helps me process my issues. So I'm getting some self-benefit out of that, some company benefit. And then also you and I get together, how often? Once a month?
Once a month, yep.
Once a month, and do this one-to-one hour and a half, just deep dive into whatever's going on in our business or my life at that time, and try to issue or process that issue, just one-on-one scenario. And you're doing that with each person in the group.
Right.
And so, wow, it just doesn't get any better than that. So tell me about Vistage.
So Vistage is, the organization's been around since the 60s. And so I'll give you a little bit of my, like I said, I've been involved for 10 years, lots of different groups. And what I stood back with is I realized, okay, I've got the family business running. I'm enjoying that, giving opportunity to my kids, and it's doing pretty good. I got the team building, so now I can kind of interact more with professionals and do some of that. But what I was still missing was that peer piece. And what I realized was that building a Vistage group of peers, peer CEOs, it's like building a team. it's not my company, but it's still selecting the right group of people. And so Vistage has been around since the 60s. There's I think there's 50,000 members, something like that, worldwide. And it started in the kind of the Great Lakes area. They're now headquartered out in California, and it's all about helping business owners achieve success. Being a CEO is all about making decisions. And so how can you make the best decisions? You make the best decisions, you get the best outcomes, and then you have success. And that's what it's all about. And when you think about your decision-making process, it may be something people don't think about a lot. It's just how your brain works. Mm-hmm. But having a group there, you really need three things to make great decisions, right? You need a certain amount of instinct, you need experience and your own and data. And so what is the data showing you? What is your gut kind of telling you? But then on top of that, if that's all you have, you can do pretty good. But having those outside perspectives, because we don't see it from all angles, right? In that example of the rent, my wife would have never told me, you've got too much emotion in it, because she's sitting over there with just as much emotion as me.
She's just as emotional as you, right?
Right. So there's no outside perspective. But a Vistage group is going to watch me, and they're going to be for me enough and honest enough with me and want to help me enough to help me see that in myself. And that enables a whole dimension of growth and outcome that you don't get any other way.
Right. No, that's very powerful. So what type of people are you looking for when you want to put together? And I'm sure that's different because there's different cultures and different areas, right? Geographically, but in your particular area, what type of people do you want to put in the room?
So there's kind of soft qualifiers and hard qualifiers. In the hard side, you want a range of industries. You want somebody that's seeing what's happening in the B2C world. You want somebody that thinks more strategically, like a marketing person would inherently think more strategically. It's good to have different industries, see what the construction industry is doing. A lot of times the trucking industry will lead the economy. And so if you have a trucking guy in the room, he can kind of tell you what he's seeing, and that'll give you a feel for what you might be seeing in 2 or 3 months. So a finance person, somebody that gets people. You want all those different perspectives from different industries. So that's kind of the demographic side. You also want diversity, right? Yeah. You want different genders, races, and ages in the room. You want a difference in company makeup. Not all, like I was in a private company, but not all, and I reported to the owner. So some people are owners, some people have part ownership with another majority owner, different kind of levels of leading from that perspective in terms of the makeup of the company. And then on the soft side, I really look for three things. The first one is a moral compass, because if you're going to give me unbiased feedback, I don't need you suggesting shady stuff to me. Right. I need it to be above board. Right. And so I watch that. I don't tell them that, but as we're talking and I'm interviewing people for the group, that comes out.
You're trying to gauge.
You're trying to gauge the moral compass. Is it there, and is it going to be strong where they're going to contribute in that way? You want people that want to grow. Nobody joins Vistage to stay the same. And if you want to stay the same, if you don't think you have ways you can grow, you're not going to last very long in the group. And so you have to realize that growth is part of it, and that it's really hard. The hardest work we do is on us, right? It's easy to find everybody else's faults. It's really hard to work on my own. But you have to realize that that's what's getting in your way. Like I said, there's different kinds of groups. I could give you referrals all day, but how do you show up when you get to those referrals? And what's really the limiting factor for you? Is it not knowing who to talk to, or is it not knowing how to show up in a leadership role to get that done, right? So where is your limit? And Vistage works on the person. So you mentioned personal and professional. That's all tied in. And then the last thing we look for is people that'll be vulnerable, that'll just be honest. If you think you know it all, and again, it goes back to the growth, but you've got to be able to be raw. You've got to be able to bring in when it's relevant, personal issues, because that's what's getting in your way, and let's help you figure that out.
So what does you bring this very diverse, very raw, authentic, experienced people into the room? You put them all together. They're all comes from different walks of life, different industries, but they're all at the same level, really, from a business perspective, right? Because you're also looking for businesses of X value, right? People that have been able to be successful and accomplished because they've had those experiences. What does a meeting look like?
So the meeting is once a month. It will start.
Which I like is you don't have to you don't have to carve out multiple times a week.
Right. So we go in for a day once a month, and it starts out. A good meeting really has basically three components. You start out with some kind of roundtable, but really an inclusion exercise. You need the group to bond. You need the group to have a shared vision. You need the group to get each other. And so you get that, and you need the group to trust each other. And you get all that with a good inclusion exercise. So we'll ask questions that will draw out information from people so they start to get a feel for what the other people in the room value and how they think, and learn about them. So you're not sitting in a group of strangers. So there's usually an inclusion exercise. Then there's a great speaker. So we'll bring in, Vistage has the largest network of speakers for executives that I've ever seen. And so we'll bring in either virtually or in person a speaker on a topic that matters to the group. If the group's struggling to find good people, we'll bring in the best speaker we can find on strategies for finding good people. If they're struggling with sales, we'll bring in the best speaker we can find on how to sell in a pandemic. Whatever it is, we'll bring somebody in to give them best practices and ideas, again, outside perspectives. So you've got the inclusion exercise, you've got a great speaker, and then the afternoon, you do issue processing. And that's where people in the room, members in the room, will bring, this is my biggest challenge or opportunity right now. How do I take advantage of it, right? I'm trying to pivot my company with a new idea, but I'm kind of out of my league a little bit because this is different than what we've done before, but we feel like there might be something there. Tell me what I might be missing, right? Or I'm dealing with a difficult employee, and this is what it's doing to my business, and how do I navigate through this? There's always some sort of how do I question in there.
Yeah, I love that. That's as you know, that's my favorite part. That's a lot of fun to walk down through that. Not only and I'm talking about walking other people's, because I learned from that. Yeah,
and that's the thing is you learn, you're processing an issue about a difficult employee. We've all had difficult employees.
Right.
That's what happens. Right. And so you're listening to this and you're like, I should have done that way back when I had that problem. And then you're building your toolkit, right? And so everybody's saw is getting sharper. Yeah, and that's probably that is the most enjoyable part of the meeting usually for the members, because they're seeing value for themselves and they're seeing that they're helping others, and so there's a service and helping others aspect that always feels good, and then there's a I'm gaining from this too, and so the whole room really gains from that.
So then on another day of the month, then you're going to come over and visit with the members on a one-on-one basis for about an hour.
Yeah, so there's a coaching session once a month, and that's where I get the opportunity to question your answers, if you will. Sometimes we get stuck in our way of doing things, and we don't see the outside perspective. So it's an opportunity to see how the meeting, debrief from the meeting, but it's also an opportunity to kind of get inside where you're going, what you're thinking, maybe tee up an issue for the next meeting.
Yeah.
And just process where you're at and help you think about, like I said earlier, how much do we think about our decision-making process? It's really interesting when you sit down with different CEOs. You were very quick to join. Like you were there, you knew what you wanted to do, and you were in. Other people will have a much more committee approach, and nothing's right or wrong, but there are strengths and potential weaknesses in all that. But maybe nobody's talked to them about that. Yeah. There's topics like that people don't come in and talk to you like that.
Yeah, I love that.
People don't give you that kind of feedback, and that's where CEOs, I think, value that, because they want direct feedback. What am I doing well? What do I need to think about that I didn't even think to think about? And that's what the one-to-one brings as well, is a chance to do some of that.
I love that. It's I can tell you that Vistage for me has been one of the best decisions that I've ever made, and it would be a shock for me for not to be involved in the Vistage group for a long time, and so much so that I've been inviting other people that we don't have in the room into the room.
Yeah, and good. Yeah, we're still in the build process, right? A full Vistage group is 16. We're at 10 at the moment. We're growing pretty good. We've added 2-3 in the last couple months each month, so it's building after the pandemic, but still a few seats left. Trying to find the right group of people. Because you want that right dynamic in the room. I have said no. You have to say no.
Yeah.
Because you can bring one wrong person in the room. We've all been in that meeting, right?
Yeah, we've all been in that scenario.
Yeah. So you don't want that.
Right.
And so you've got to be a little selective. You got to find the right people. But when you get the right group and they want to grow and they're willing to be open and they know they don't know everything, there's a atmosphere there that is just really exciting to watch what that turns into.
So if someone wanted to get involved in this, if someone was interested in find out more about it, how would they go about doing that?
They can shoot me. You can go to vistage.com and you can see what the organization's all about. They could shoot me an email, kevin.williams@vistagechair.com.
Okay, kevin.williams@vistagechair.com.
Yes.
Okay. I have your email saved in my album in my email distribution system. So I don't really know what people's emails are. It's like phone numbers, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's
it
phone
is.
number is saved, so you don't memorize your phone number. How about if they want to play a game? How about if they want to play an escape game?
Yeah, that's escapeology.com. So they can just log on to that. And we're Columbia. We're right downtown on Lady Street, and that would be great. Yeah.
That'd be great, man. So engage with Kevin. If you want to play a game, you got your family, small group, business group, corporate group, go play a game and support Kevin's new small business. Not new anymore. It's been around a long time now.
We're coming up on 3 years.
Yeah, so his small business, it's probably it is the best. It's the best in the Midlands of South Carolina by far. I enjoy playing his games, but more importantly, I enjoy his coaching sessions. I enjoy the Vistage group. If you're a business owner or a business executive out there and you're really wanting to have unfiltered, unbiased, raw, just commitment from other people to help you grow your business in the right direction and give you advice from people to processes to systems to just hard business decisions you got to make, then get in touch with us. You can go to brainstormradio.com and check us out there. You can engage us on social media, get in touch with Kevin. But other than that, on behalf of Kevin Williams, thanks for listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.